So those are some of the equipment. Now, you also need to have software, right? And there's different types of software that you can get. I would start initially with one of the low-end software programs. And when I say low-end, that usually means less than $500. Okay, and there's a number of them out there. If you go out and you look at Walmart or you look at one of the other computer software stores, you'll find that there's a lot of accounting software programs out there that are sold all over the country, in some cases all over the world. QuickBooks today is by far the most popular, has the largest market share of any software program out there. But Peachtree is an excellent program. You've got Simply Accounting, MYOB, that's just a sample of different software programs that you could pick up and utilize. But start with one of the lower end ones, okay? Now eventually you'll probably want to advance to a write-up system. They cost quite a bit more. You can spend $1,000 to $2,000 and in some cases even more for a write-up system. Write-up systems do give you certain advantages. QuickBooks, for instance, or the makers of QuickBooks, a company named Intuit, actually provides another accounting software that is specifically for write-up. And it's Intacct, okay? And that's one that you might want to get down the road. But I wouldn't get it initially. It's only when you have several clients that you're going to start taking advantage of some of the capabilities that some of these write-up systems have. Primarily, the biggest advantage to write-up, just to answer that question that I'm sure is there, is why a write-up system? Well, because they provide more after-the-fact capabilities, okay? In other words, you're just picking up a bunch of paper, putting it into the system. Write-up systems provide some capabilities and able to enter that more swiftly, and also better conversion to tax software. Also, they provide usually some client maintenance or keeping track of how much time you're on that system. Online systems. I mean, QuickBooks has a system, and there's several of them out there. NetLedger, some of the other systems out there. These systems, your data is actually residing somewhere in Washington or somewhere in Vermont or wherever the computers are. All the accounting is being done. So you could have a client in California and they could be entering all their data into this computer up in Seattle, and you here in Salt Lake could be looking at that while they're doing it. And then if the client calls up and says, hey, listen, I'd like to look at some information. Would you mind creating a report for me with this information? You could say, well, hold on. And you could create that report. You could be seeing it on the screen the same time they're seeing it on their screen. Okay? And then they look at it and say, well, that's not quite exactly what I want. I'd like to change it this way. So you make the change, and they look at it, that's it. So then they print it off on their printer. Okay? Isn't that great? And that will enable you. I mean, I'm talking about just between California and Utah. You can have clients in Australia. You could have clients in Brazil. As long as they're all tied in through the internet to the same system, you'll be able to support them, and they'll be looking at the data the same time you are. Okay? One other thing I'll point out, and that is to ignore specialty software. That means there are a lot of systems out there that specialize in a certain type of company, and they give all sorts of capabilities for that company. The only time there might be an exception to that rule, the rule I just gave you, is if you're specializing in that same industry, okay? But make sure that that specialty software will support more than one company, okay? Oftentimes the specialty software will only enable you to work under one company's name. And, of course, then you'd have to go buy another license to work with another company, and so that would be very expensive. And especially software tends to be very expensive, okay? So, again, I'll just review this by saying start with the low end and then advance possibly later to a write-up system.